House of Dragons. First things first, let's watch the season trailer for the final season, premiering Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Let's watch that real quick.
Their feet. The dragons dance.
Once again, spoilers.
And men are like dust under their feet. We march now toward our annihilation.
Alright, Zoro, night. You know this bad Buzz White.
I have entrusted you with a power only few have known. We must strike while we have the advantage.
The Prince
Adam
Regent's
of Hull.
angry. There's no telling what he will do.
You wish to rule the Seven Kingdoms, but you reign ruin and death.
While you have mustered an army, Rhaenyra has faltered.
Pretenders raise new riders against us. I need you to fly with Dreamfire to battle.
Bro, no, I did see a ranking of all the dragons. I think Balerion is the biggest, Vhagar is second, Vermithor is fourth, and I think Dreamfire is like, no, wait. Vermithor is third. Vhagar is Vhagar is the largest living, and right under Vhagar is Vermithor. And he's the second largest. I think the fourth is Dreamfire. Low key. But I don't think Dreamfire has seen battle. So, and also Helena is like I ain't gonna lie, she low key special. So, yeah.
Anyone answer?
I don't know who the hell this dragon is. This dragon looks raw.
Outrage is outrage.
Oh, that's Vhagar. Oh, I'm sorry.
For every one of us who falls,
Bro, Vermithor is top 2, bro.
of them.
She literally said the second largest dragon. Are you not paying attention? Yeah, cuz you was not paying attention. You was not paying attention. Vermithor is the second largest. Anyways, we gonna watch this explained. We're gonna watch this explained. Gengi. House of Dragons. Dim dim diddy 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 dim. The fuck is this?
Get down on the ground.
Oh, hell
Welcome
no.
back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Boss, and
One
this
of
is a
those.
breakdown of House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 7, The Red Sowing, a title that comes directly from Fire and Blood, page 480. A score of the Queen's own household knights offered themselves as dragon riders, squires, scullions, sailors, men-at-arms, mummers, and 2 maids.
RP that boy Sir Darkland.
One names the triumphs and tragedies
RP that boy
ensued,
Sir
crediting
Darkland,
the
man.
notion to Jacaerys himself, not Mushroom. Others prefer The Red Sowing. And that's where we end this episode, and it is rough. Hey, I want to thank you for your patience as we got this breakdown out. We were recovering from an intense weekend of all the news coverage from San Diego Comic-Con, but you know, it actually gave us some extra time to rewatch this episode of House of the Dragon again and find some deeper analysis points. Like, I think I might have cracked the code of why the dragons claim some riders and not others. Not that I'd want to test that theory personally, but let's go back.
Bro, I'm about to
episodes,
take
scene by
this
scene for
little
everything you
stocking
missed,
cap
and
off.
for any spoilers
My hair
for
getting itchy.
upcoming events that we know are happening from Fire and Blood, specifically the big events of next week's finale. I will save those for the spoiler
Why you
dungeon
lying?
section at the end.
You don't know
no
damn
real
well you go to
update
that
on
nerdy
the
shit.
tapestry
Stop lying.
opening title imagery, but once again we do end with this black fluid bleeding from Melly's head toward the Iron Throne. And last week I speculated that that could refer to a different kind of lineage beside royal Targaryen blood that actually guides the succession of power, a fluid specific to dragons who produce that oily black bile that they use to emit their fire breath. And I think that it's even that fluid that Ulf the White might have anointed himself with later on in this episode. But this episode smashes open to this epic opening shot, a standoff between Rhaenyra and Adam of Hull, with Syrax behind Rhaenyra.
Yo, what's
and
this
Seasmoke
upbeat
behind
music
Adam.
they got
Ryan
behind
Condal
it?
said that they took inspiration from the silent standoffs in Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West, and that they like
this
the
shit is
idea
way
of the
too
dragon,
uppity.
Syrax, and Seasmoke as the guns on the hip holsters. The sea wind that blows Rhaenyra and Adam's hair also flaps the membranes of the dragon's wings, and I just like that little VFX detail. Really, the first words of the episode are spoken not by the humans, but by the roars of these opposing weapons. I love the unique sound design of each dragon roar. Syrax has a feminine sing-songy quality to it, a cry of a dragon who has never really seen battle, whereas Seasmoke has more of a seafaring, battle-tested dragon who has inhaled more salt and smoke, and it affected his vocal cords. But since Seasmoke once belonged to Leonor, these two dragons were once bound by marriage in a way. Now, George R. R. Martin had established a rule that dragons are not supposed to be able to bond to a new rider while their previous rider is still alive. So many took that to mean that Leonor must have died off screen screen. I don't know, the show has contested the world logic of the text before, and I think that they are keeping Sir Lanor alive for some reason that they're gonna pay off in a future season. The beach where Rhaenyra forces Adam to meet her actually looks like the same dunes where she and Lanor strolled when they became betrothed. I think they actually shot in the same location in the UK.
Boy, Sir
Adam says
Lanor was
he
getting
only wants to
some
learn the
boom
ways
boom.
of dragon riders, and he bends the knee to Rhaenyra. He says that Sea Smoke sought him out.
And if the gods call me to greater things, who am I to refuse them?
Answering the call of the gods as justification for these brash actions is something Rhaenyra will later echo to Jace.
But I cannot gainsay that which the gods have laid before me.
Just a reminder that some of the small folk consider the dragons to be literal gods, and a dragon approaching you is kind of like being selected by a god for a divine purpose. Adam says that his mother was a shipwright while his father is no one of consequence. Yeah, he's probably not wrong to place his more important lineage on his mother's side if Corlys's Velaryon blood truly didn't have the dragon rider ancestry, but in this line is a hint that Corlys has never acknowledged him. Now we'll see later how Corlys says that like his family is not supposed to have dragon rider blood in it, but in the text, the Velaryons and the Targaryens have totally intermarried over the centuries.
That kind of confused me.
Grandmother.
That kind of confused me. He was saying how his family wasn't destined to be dragon riders, so their mother most definitely had to be like Targaryen of something, which is wild. I don't know. I was confused. I was thinking maybe like he just smelled Laenor's blood, which Laenor was, you know what I mean, half Targaryen, so he probably just like smelled. I don't know. I don't know how it worked.
Is the mother of Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys.
This is a crazy ass family tree, bro. Like the way this shit connected is wild. Like look how Rhaenyra just goes from Laenor to a wild ass family tree. Look at it. Prince Aegon, Prince Elaine. Ew. Hell no.
Conquerors of Westeros, so he should totally have dragon rider blood in his specific bloodline. This is what I mean about the show just having a very different approach to things at times. We just have to be okay with that. But this entire opening sequence is not in Fire and Blood, because in the book, Alan and Adam volunteer themselves as potential dragon seeds, and Adam gets lucky with Sea Smoke in the Dragonstone Dragonmont. So the fact that this show separates out Adam's moment with Rhaenyra this way, as a man who bends the knee after gaining a dragon without Rhaenyra's involvement initially, places the ultimate power of the selection process in the whims of the dragons. The dragons don't give a shit about the blood. In fact, we could just as easily look at this standoff as a conversation between dragons, as their pipsqueak pets are just kind of nipping at each other from their feet with growls of little meaning. Meanwhile, Orwyle cleans Alicent's cut. This is the one she got on her wrist during the riot in the previous episode. This parallels the
Alicent this episode does like a spiritual journey. I don't know. Alicent lost all power she got, lost all aura, and she was just out in grass, just frolicking. Whatever Alicent doing.
Old Spice, total body. It fights stank 24/7.
How many commercials are gonna be using the Deadpool, man?
Oh my God.
I already saw the movie.
As the men of Alicent's family get scarred, like Aemond, Viserys, Aegon, and show off their scars for all to see, Alicent is expected to hide her battle wounds and maintain a facade of perfection. Alicent hears a rat scurrying and says nothing is clean here. Remember, the rats have taken over because Aegon hanged the rat catchers. In Fire and Blood, Otto Hightower suggests to unleash cats around the Red Keep to catch all these rats, but Otto left King's Landing in the show after getting dismissed, so we get no kitty cats. Alicent sees these rats both as a reminder of what happened to her grandson and of the moral rot that has taken over the castle. Alicent orders Sir Rickard Thorne to take her out to the Kingswood, just the two of them. And Sir Rickard gives off the expression like he knows what Alicent likes to do with Kingsguard knights and doesn't want to piss off Sir Criston. Two of Aegon's three lickspittle drinking buddies, Sir Eddard Waters and Sir Martin Rain,
yeah, I did peep this, bro. These were the same dudes that Aegon personally made. They were Aegon's friends. They would like drink by the throne and be all like happy and shit. I thought it was one of them that got their like the hand cut off trying to protect Alicent and Helena, but I don't know. I think these were just Aegon's buddies.
Are stripped of their knighthood and sent to the wall. I had thought all three of them might have died in the riot when Sir Leon Estermont cut that guy's arm off,
they were in the riot.
Crowd dogpiled on Sir Leon. So I guess I have to retract. The Reigns of Castamere being played for Martin Rain. Larys Strong and Ironrod watch over this from the same balcony where King Viserys and Lionel Strong watched the boy fights in season 1. When Viserys was like, "This is the stuff. But whereas Aemond was useless during those sparring sessions, now he's commanding the courtyard below, as Larys and Ironrod talk about the rumors of Seasmoke's new rider, and Aemond accuses Martin and Eddard with endangering his mother and sister and ordering that they forsake their white cloaks for black. So I wonder in the show, why stage these scenes at the same time? Why put Aemond in the background of all this and have like a scene concurrently happening? Well, it might be to show that Larys and Ironrod are more focused on dragon gossip than Aemond removing anyone in Aegon's orbit who could stand between him and his alien brother. Like, they really should be worried about Aemond sneaking in there and just doing things to this alien king, you know, like stuffing an attendance ball in his mouth. Ironrod says that he heard the Seasmoke rumor from his squire, who heard it from a stable hand, whose father was a fisherman, and that fisherman heard it from a first mate, and then they heard it from like Mrs. Lovejoy, who heard it from Kevin Bacon, who heard it from like a New Rockstars Taylor Swift theory video. Yes, not always the most reliable game of telephone, but sometimes there's some truth in it. But Larys says,
perhaps this is one of those whispers best left to the wind.
Ah, to the wind. We are back to Alice Rivers' line to Daemon in the past about learning the news from the wind. And remember, there was that cryptic bird that Adam of Hull was looking at right before Seasmoke jumped out in front of him. It's just, you know, if Alice Rivers is using these birds to warg and to spy on the events of
Yeah, I was
Westeros.
about to say, bro, you think Alicent is like one of the wargs that what was his name? Is it Bronn Stark? Like maybe she was like one of the wargs that like uses animals to like see stuff. That was Loki fire. Because like she did say there's distant magic and stuff.
The wind might be an actual way of carrying news, but Aemond seems to sense that Larys is hiding something from him down from the courtyard below, staring up in Larys' direction, making Larys uncomfortable and stepping away. Meanwhile, the Black Council debates Rhaenyra's decision to teach Adam High Valyrian and to accept him as a dragon rider, but notice how this whole scene is shot around Jace. Like Jace is right behind Bartimos Caltagar when Bartimos is pushing back, and then Baela turns to look at Jace, and Jace just kind of tenses up and demands, "Where is the queen?" Because Baela knows, based on her and Jace's conversation about his parentage through Harwin Strong, that Jace knows he's a bastard and that having a dragon is the one thing that gave him unique dignity over everyone else. Mysaria tells Rhaenyra,
I once worked in a pleasure house where generations of Targaryen princelings had their revels.
She was referring to her work in season 1 episode 1 when she was with Daemon in the brothel. The idea that all these princes of the Targaryen family since the conquest had bore bastards from women in this brothel is just an open secret among anyone who worked there. Rhaenyra is hesitant to recruit lowborn writers because she thinks highborn nobles are bound by honor and ancient fealty. Obviously, this isn't always the case. Highborn lords within the Targaryens, the Hightowers, and the Lannisters set aside honor all the time to maintain power. But an argument could be made that there is kind of like a new money privilege to many of these treacherous lords, where if their
this
ancestral
upbeat
wealth and
music
power
pisses
comes
me
from
off.
trickery, like with Lan the Clever, or from lucky dreams like Daenerys the Dreamer, or just from privileged geographical proximity to the Citadel in the case of the Hightowers, that these families might be less likely to care about this kind of ancient fealty than, say, the Starks or the River Lords of this episode, whose power comes from honoring oaths, even at great costs. Mysaria argues that the Targaryens are ancestrally invaders who rule by dragon might and even kinslaying. So why should Rhaenyra care about highborn versus lowborn?
The order of things has changed, Your Grace.
Rhaenyra recognizes that for 20 years, people have insulted her sons by calling them strong bastards. So hell, why not?
Let us raise an army.
Strong bastards.
You know, I don't think I'm spoiling anything by bringing up later history beyond the scope of this show, but a few generations after this will be the first Blackfyre Rebellion, in which Daemon Blackfyre, the bastard son of Aegon IV, claimed the throne of his older trueborn brother Daeron II, which started a whole big civil war, fought really with an army of Targaryen bastards. Whereas Corlys was eager for his bastard son Alan to serve him, all he can really muster for Adam now is
Well done.
well done. That's how all the other dragon seeds are going to be cooked this episode.
Duh.
Cook my meat. I don't want to see not one speck of red.
But this is an interesting parallel for Corlys to struggle with the second son. Because remember, in season 1, he and Daemon had that whole conversation about being the second sons. Like Daemon as a second son to Viserys, House Velaryon as kind of the little brother household to House Targaryen. And once
Picture this. You're sitting at home alone watching YouTube videos, wondering why
Picture
you can't
this.
find the
You're sitting at
motivation to do
home.
the thing.
again, the younger brother, in this case with Adam, has succeeded. And I just think Corlys is dealing with being the dismissive force that underestimated the second son. Now, there is some incredible music as House Tully approaches Harrenhal.
House Tully. Bro, people on
It
Twitter
sounds
were
like
saying,
Ramin Djawadi is using some
what was the
synth
name?
tones in the melody
Lord
that's
Grover.
uncommonly modern for
I think
the
that's the
House
name.
of the
Lord
Dragon
Grover was
show
like the
or for
next
Game of Thrones, and I think it's meant to
Lena
reflect the
Marmont.
younger generation of House Tully,
The
of
little girl that
Oscar
was in Game of
Tully, a
Thrones.
true Lyanna
Oscar
Mormont-style
Tully.
badass this episode who schools the older generation. We saw Oscar earlier this season where he was much more nervous and bumbling and inexperienced, wherein his grandfather Grover Tully was still alive. Now, in Fire and Blood, the family tree is a bit more spread out, as Grover is really Oscar's great-grandfather. Oscar had a father named Elmo and an older brother named Kermit, and yes, George R. R. Martin named all these characters after Muppets. And yes, Kermit the Frog is a Muppet because he was a Jim Henson creation who originally appeared on Sesame Street. They're all Muppets. We are all Muppets. But on the show, they just kind of condensed it so that there's just Grover and Oscar. And Oscar now is a bit of a Gen Z grouch. Now, he looks off to the left when he rides up rather than up at Harrenhal, which at first I thought might be him looking out at the God's Eye Lake and beyond it to the Isle of Faces. But actually, I think he's just approaching the castle from a different side and he's looking out at the Riverlands, the lands that he is now Lord Paramount of. And notice the blue tents of the campsite of all the Riverlords who are forced to sleep outside of the castle grounds, even though it's being built to house all of these soldiers of the Riverland armies. These would be those Riverlords who shamed Daemon in episode 5, who probably insisted on sleeping outside because they're like, we're not going to sleep in this cursed castle with this asshole. And the fact that Oscar would be talking to them first before going to see Daemon tells you how this is really going to go down. Daemon congratulates Oscar for ascending as head of House Tully and Lord Paramount to the Riverlands.
Really glorious. Well done.
I did nothing.
Another well done. Now for Adam, it's meaningful to get any validation from a father figure, even if it was really a dragon who found him and chose him. Truly, the only thing that Adam actually did was to bend the knee to Rhaenyra afterwards. That is really the well done he earned. But for Oscar, the well done is just for, you know, his grandfather dying. And he knows that. And he's not gonna put up with the bullshit of Matt Smith's hilariously dismissive, truly glorious. Well done. Daemon rises from the broken chair that we saw back in episode 3 of this season, and I wondered if this could be Harren the Black, or at least a chair that Harren the Black had made for himself to sit in that got torched by Balerion when the castle was burned. But now Daemon finds himself paying the price as a Targaryen being burned by the justice of the townies. Whereas rain, or runoff from recent rain, normally shrouded this castle in gloom, in this scene strong beams of light cut through the room, an indicator that truth in the eyes of the old gods are upon Daemon now. Oscar says,
I am green in this sort of matter, as you so kindly point out, but it does seem to me that you've made rather a mess here.
Oscar uses the word green to refer to his inexperience, but I think it's also a threat to Daemon, that he knows Daemon needs the Lord Paramount of the Riverlands, and that Lord could just as easily align with the Greens if Daemon doesn't play this right. Oscar reminds us all that his grandfather declared for Viserys' main successor Rhaenyra, so he's bound to honor that, but he checks Daemon by calling him King Consort, knowing that Daemon badgered Sir Simon over the necessity of the consort part, and later in the Godswood, notice how he calls Daemon Prince in front of everyone else.
No matter how loathsome I may find her representative, the prince.
King.
So where did young Oscar get his brass balls in the past few weeks? Did just the death of his grandfather kill the boy and let the man rise? My theory is that, remember, Sir Simon said that Alice Rivers had gone to Riverrun to help in Lord Grover's final hours. And I think Alice, who does not appear in this episode, was actually there to counsel young Lord Oscar how to speak more directly to Daemon. I'm not saying she scripted everything he said this episode, but she just gave him the confidence he needed to stand up to Daemon. So they go out to the Harrenhal Godswood, where all the Riverlords are present. We see House Blackwood from Willem Blackwood. We see House Bracken, represented by Amos Bracken and his son. We saw Amos Bracken outside Stonehenge earlier this season. There's House Mallister, that's the bird sigil. There's House Piper, that's the sigil with the dancing maiden. There's House Mooten, the sigil with the red salmon. This would be Wallace Mooten, Lord of Maidenpool, referenced by Bartimaeus Celtigar and Rhaenyra last episode, as one planning to lead a small host to try to retake Rook's Rest. And there's House Derry. Lord Derry is at this meeting. I think that's the group with the 2 circle bronze medallions on their shoulders. Now, the behind the scenes video revealed that the trunk of this rearwood tree is practical, but the taller branches and the red leaves would be CGI. Also, the face carved into the trunk was based on the likeness of George R. R. Martin. And I love that idea because it suggests that the creator god of all these events, other than, you know, the 6th book that he should be writing, is watching through the eyes of this tree at justice being served. Now, the roots of this tree are especially exposed now and extend thickly into this courtyard so that you really feel the old gods continuing to grasp and strangle the castle. Oscar says that he has no love for Daemon.
He has dishonored himself and the crown with his comportment here.
Comportment, meaning the behavior or the demeanor of a royal. And really, Oscar's pause is what conveys a judgment that that behavior was bad behavior. Many
Factor provides balanced eating made simple.
They provide a new menu every week with delicious.
I don't be seeing no HelloFresh ads
after
anymore.
last week's use of the word salubrious, that the writers might just be inserting one word each episode that we have to go look up. Oscar tells his men to seize Willem Blackwood and tells Damon that he must denounce his crimes and dispense justice.
Oh dear.
Dear me. The music that now overtakes this scene sounds kind of like a mix of shrieking birds and screams, like all the women and children of House Bracken being killed by Blackwood and his men, the crows picking at their corpses, echoing back to Damon through the wind and through Alice Rivers. His rush to behead Blackwood seems largely motivated by just trying to silence all this noise.
No, bro. And that's crazy. That would completely sums up Damon as a character. That man, you could literally say like, hey, you helped me out with this one thing. My life is yours. Your life is mine. You trust in me. I'll take you to sky's limit. That man, Damon, literally cut all of that off. And it's like said, I gotta protect my own skin, which is crazy, bro. This man is literally two-faced, at amends to his own needs, and it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. And I think right over this, he had like
in this edit, they include this insert that shows Willem Blackwood turning away from Damon at the last second of the sword going through his neck, and then cutting back to Damon, and we stay on Damon's eyes as he is unable to turn away from what must be Willem's severed head, suggesting that Willem's eyes may be looking back at him, and Damon is remembering his dream of young Rhaenyra when her severed head spoke to him. Damon again encounters this goat. He passed this goat in episode 4, and in that moment, since Sir Simon did not react to the goat, we speculated that Damon might have been hallucinating the animal, and sure enough, he seems to be in a dream now. So what's the deal with the goat? Is it an animal being used as a nanny cam by Alice Rivers? Possible warg? Is the goat a reference to the Black Goat, the central deity of Qohor, which began as a cult of religious dissidents in the Valyrian stronghold? Or is it a bit of pagan and satanic imagery from our world? I see a parallel with the sheep in these past episodes being fed to dragons, the sheep being toasted and stolen by that dragon in the Vale, and I think the solitary goat haunts Damon and Harrenhal, and the goat is a reflection of himself, the second brother, the outcast, never desired as heir. Damon finds sitting upon his bed another ghost of his brother Viserys, Paddy Considine again returning, but now in his later years, where his decay had really begun to set in. Just a reminder that this bed frame is made out of a weirwood tree trunk, and here on the bedposts you can see.
And also, I don't know if they were going to add this, but the actor that played Viserys pointed out that he wanted to do this scene as like the decrepit version with like all like the holes and the missing eye and shit. And he said that would add like a more of like, because I think in this scene like Viserys offers Daemon the crown. So I'm like, do you still want it? Like as he's looking at how the crown turned Viserys to like, you feel me? You feel me? You're not gonna be the same once you get this crown.
Of that tree, with the white bark giving away to the inner layer, and in the cross section of any tree, these layers are referred to as the heartwood or the true wood, which is made up of cells that are actually dead, but they give the tree supportive strength, and these layers are actually more durable than the outer layers of sapwood. This parallels what Viserys is to Daemon, something that is starting to decay and is a representation of death as he's a ghost, yet he is still a durable core component of Daemon's soul. Viserys' scarring isn't quite as bad as it was in his final days. He still has some of the hair, but Matt Smith noted that his appearance would have been the last stage of Viserys' appearance that Daemon would have remembered and would have seen before he and Rhaenyra went to Dragonstone. Daemon never saw what he looks like after that. He still looks pretty rough though, and Daemon is likely remembering when Viserys had dropped the crown and Daemon placed it back on his brother's head, but now that Viserys says he never wanted this crown, Daemon may be feeling guilty over doing that, putting that additional weight on his dying brother's head, like he further doomed his brother's physical decay. Remember, the first of those 1,000 cuts happened when Viserys angrily removed Daemon as his heir back in the first episode of the series, and then he leaned back on the Iron Throne and the armrest cut his finger. And I love that Paddy Considine holds the crown in a way that looks like it's eerily floating in front of his fingers. As Viserys asks if Daemon still wants it, the focus shifts on the great houses represented on the crown, with the direwolf of House Stark featured directly in the center, because these shows know we love the Starks the most. By the way, it was confirmed that Cregan Stark will return in the finale. Grandmaster.
Oh my, I'm waiting, bro. We haven't gotten the Starks all season, bro. I want to see the Starks. I want to see the Starks, the Northerners. The Northern Men
helps Aegon try to relearn how to walk, and when that walking stick breaks, we kind of fear for a second that it's one of his bones. Ugh. It's interesting to pair this scene with the shots of Aegon's father Viserys looking rough, because Aegon
look
is
at Aegon
now
looking
very
just like his
similarly
daddy.
looking, bald on half of his head, but just in this case scarred from burns. But
Looking
Larys
just like his daddy.
impressively shoulders part of the weight when he himself has a club foot to help the king back to the bed. Larys is really rushing Aegon's recovery because he sees how fast Aemond is consolidating power in the Red Keep, and he needs the king back on his feet, as these rulers' power comes not from true health but from the superficial appearance of vitality. In fact, the Greens even delayed telling everyone that Viserys was dead. On Driftmark, Corlys is back to wearing Velaryon blue, whereas on Dragonstone he always wears a completely different black outfit. It seems like he switches based off of where he is, so that
also
here
another grueling issue that I've heard online is, bro, we've never seen Corlys on a ship. I like how they be saying like Corlys, he's like the master of the seas, master of the tides. He lives on a ship. My life is salt and sea, but bro, we've never seen this nigga on a ship, like commanding a ship. Hopefully we see it in this final season battle. Bro, I'm praying that final season like 2 hours, bro. It got to be movie length.
And sailors would see him still as the sea snake and not as just a servant within Rhaenyra's Black Council. Though notice he still wears the hand pin because he's not like lying about himself. He just wants to fit in wherever he is. Corlys orders Alan to charter some fishing vessels into Blackwater Bay. So this is how they have those ships standing by to ship all the Targaryen bastards back to Dragonstone. They aren't ships marked with Rhaenyra's sigil. They're just kind of fishing boats. But still, suspiciously loading up a whole bunch of silver-haired small folk. You would think some Hightower watchman would be like, hey, is there like a convention at sea that no one told me about? But Ryan Condal did say that these recruits are meant to kind of feel like a cult. So maybe they're just equating it with like the Scientology Sea Org. Corlys says,
our people are of old Valyria, but we are no dragon lords.
And he attributes Alan and Adam's affinity for dragons to their mother's heritage. Again, Corlys' ancestry in Fire and Blood has plenty of intermarrying between the Velaryons and the Targaryens. This shouldn't be an issue, but it just seems like the show wants to make this character fully a man of salt and sea and don't want to bring up the question of, hey, why doesn't he have a dragon? And speaking of salt and sea, that's what Alan says he is as well.
I am of salt and sea. I yearn for nothing else.
Remember,
Vernon Central High School, may I help you?
True fisherman.
Really?
What is this?
Today?
Run, hide, fight?
Aren't you cute? Okay, you have a live shooting situation in the cafeteria.
What?
This isn't a joke, okay? There are students with weapons in the lunchroom right now.
Oh, Bela used these words in episode 5.
I am blood and fire. Driftmark must pass to salt and sea.
So based off of that conversation, I think Corlys now sees Alan as a good option for his successor. But there's something I gotta talk about here. Editors are really the hidden superstars of Premiere Pro. Also, following the retinue with Aegon the Younger and Viserys, all headed for the gay abandoned ship, planning to sail for Pentos. I couldn't make out a container with 4 eggs on that cart, or a cage where the baby dragon Stormcloud would be kept, but I assume they were all with them or maybe already loaded up on the ship. But then Rhaena darts away and finds a burned patch of sheep skeletons, much like the one she and Joffrey found. This despite promising Rhaenyra that she would accompany these 2 kids to Pentos and be a mother to these very important princes. And I'm not sure what that retinue's gonna do when they turn around to see Rhaena just suddenly gone. They're like, oh, where'd you go? Oh, well, we got 2 out of 3 down to the boat. Onward to Pentos! And I love how HBO Max's closed captioning describes Rhaena's escape music as, quote, tense, mischievous music. It's like they want us to think of this as Rhaena going, tee-hee, I'm gonna get me a dragon! Look, weirdly blocking this scene so that Rhaena would be like 40 yards behind the group, a group that I guess we're meant to assume never turns around and just kind of forget she exists, and her timing it with Lady Jane closing the door is like, Ferris Bueller cutting class. It kind of feels like an afterthought of a scene, and the reason I'm so mad about it is that they are erasing one of the best characters from Fire and Blood to create this storyline. So if you're gonna do that, make the storyline better and more entertaining than what's in the book. Don't make it like a stupid, goofy scene. Okay, in the Kingswood, Sir Rickard asks,
this scene to return to the city.
Just
Ryan Connell confirmed that we are meant to see Alicent's camp out to be her thinking about maybe taking her own life. Rickard is now wondering, well shit, what's Aemond gonna do if I bring back Alicent's corpse? Maybe I'll just run away to tense, mischievous music and tee-hee, wait for a dragon to find me. Jace describes the lowborn bastards that Rhaenyra is recruiting for dragon riders as, quote, mongrels.
What if one of your base-born, silver-haired dragon riders decides he wants to rule the 7 kingdoms? Did the Conqueror's dream foretell that?
While Jace is being a bit of a snob here, his caution is not that wrong-headed, because we don't know where Hugh Hammer and Ulf White's loyalties are going to ultimately lie, but Jace, as a fiery boy, really is undercutting his point by insulting his mom about Aegon's Song of Ice and Fire, suggesting he thinks it's some kind of silly mom superstition, and we know that it's what Rhaenyra cares about the most. And Rhaenyra has that book open to the same page that we saw in an earlier episode, showing Aegon the Conqueror and his sisters Visenya and Rhaenys. She's reading up on the last time dragon riders flew west from Dragonstone and sought to conquer Westeros, and how decisive the dragon's victory over the continent really was. Rhaenyra wants to expand dragon power to stop a needless war, and since the show has compared the dragons to weapons of mass destruction, we are reminded of the US's justification for dropping atomic bombs in Japan as the only way to stop war, to stop all wars maybe, when really it only opened the Pandora's box to make the world a far more terrifying place. But Jace is actually feeling anxious over something else. Dragons being given to other bastards makes him, a bastard, more at risk for being challenged in the future. And it reminds us of the only other time we've seen these characters talk about his parentage, back in season 1 episode 6, when a younger Jace asked,
Is Harwin Strong my father? Am I a bastard?
You are a Targaryen. That's all that matters.
And now, with everyone looking back on that, it kind of feels like a false promise. Mazaria passes a message to Alan. Alan passes it to a fisherman, who passes it to that gold cloak that Alinda talked to get back into King's Landing, and that gold cloak directs the fisherman to Alinda. So they know that using fish to transfer these messages will be safe, because food is one thing that's a precious protected commodity in the city. And Alinda goes Silverhair hunting. First, a washerwoman. This is actually the woman who later hides behind a boulder next to Hugh Hammer and nearly dies a horrible death, but I think she actually gets away. Next, there's a man who might be one of the first to step up to Vermithor later.
No,
it's either
that's
the
not
one
him
with some facial scarring or the one that's right next to him.
I think it's the
Then
one
we
that's
see an
right
older
next to him.
gold cloak tearing down a pro-Rhaenyra banner, which shows the tension surrounding Alinda on this task, but also a sign that pro-Rhaenyra sentiment has taken root. So much so that they're not afraid to talk openly about this recruitment process in the pub. Alinda returns to her gold cloak friend, who goes into that pub, the one with the rooster on the side, and this is where we saw Ulf drinking with his buddies back in episode 3. Ulf joins these buddies, Muja and Clay, and Muja says Rhaenyra is recruiting Targaryen bastards and that they are leaving at the hour of the bat, which is just after sundown. And when Ulf seems hesitant, Clay says, all spark and no tinder. Interesting words, because later we see Ulf meeting the dragon Silverwing with nothing but a torch, but that spark of that torchlight may be exactly what he needs in that moment. We learn that the daughter of Hugh and Cat did indeed die. That pale color that she turned as they tried to flee the city was apparently the Crayola color of corpse. The subtitles say dog barking outside, so maybe Hugh adopted and did not eat Cheese's dog. Cat wants to go to Tumbleton, where her brother lives, which is a market town in the Reach, and it's the second time Tumbleton has been brought up, so it's probably a location we will see at some point. Hugh reveals that his mother worked in a pleasure house and that she got special treatment for, quote, who she was, and because rich men paid more to be with a woman with silver hair.
She used to tell me I was no different to her brother's boys, Viserys and Daemon.
So, Hugh's mother would be Princess Sarah Targaryen, the ninth child of Jaehaerys I and Alysanne, and the younger sister to Balon and Alyssa, Viserys and Daemon's parents.
Oh, okay, so she was a younger sister to Daemon's parents.
So Sarah would be Viserys and Daemon's aunt, but
Viserys and Daemon's aunt.
Because she was the youngest, she would have been roughly around Viserys' age. So Sarah grew up as a...
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I was confused. Why wasn't Hugh's mother like brought up like the other Targaryens? And I guess there's some special reason that he's about to tell us right now.
Precocious prankster, and she was actually caught up in a pretty big scandal with the young lords Jonah Mouton, Roy Connington, and Sir Braxton Beesbury, who were found in the pleasure house called the Blue Pearl, tormenting a fool named Tom Turnip. Many of them said that the prank was Sarah's idea. Sarah's friends Perry Ann Moore and Alice Turnberry snitched, saying that they had all practiced kissing and got naked at one point. And Sarah confessed to her father, King Jaehaerys, that she had lost her maidenhood and had slept with all 3 boys. So she was sent to join the faith in Old Town, but she got away, probably to some tense, mischievous music, to Lys and eventually to Volantis, and opened her own successful pleasure garden. And all 3 of her bastards, according to Fire and Blood, came to the Great Council of 101 to try to claim the throne. And actually, a very fun detail from this time in Fire and Blood, on Jaehaerys' deathbed, he mistook the young Alicent Hightower for Sarah, thinking his daughter had returned. So with Alicent at Viserys' deathbed on the show, part of a big misinterpretation in his dying breaths, it's just kind of a recurring role for her.
Oh, nothing works on this acne.
Hi. Who? I'm a licensed dermatology provider from
of Alicent's caring for Viserys was really rooted in her childhood caring for Viserys' grandfather, Jaehaerys. So, with Ulf claiming to be Balon's son, and thus a half-brother to Viserys and Daemon, that would make Hugh and Ulf first cousins, and Hugh will end up this episode bonded to the dragon of their grandfather, Jaehaerys, Vermithor, and Ulf will end this episode bonded to the dragon of their grandmother, Alysanne, Silverwing. Now, to be clear, these lineages for Ulf and Hugh are not detailed in Fire and Blood. They are creations for the show, and we don't even know if they're true on the show. They seem to be, but we don't know for sure. Either way, in Fire and Blood, it would not be something the Septons or the Maesters or maybe even Mushroom would know about. As Alicent wades into the lake into the Kingswood, we hear a string cover of Ramin Djawadi's song for this series, Fate of the Kingdoms, which was last heard in episode 2 of the season in the aftermath of young Jaehaerys' murder. It seems like Alicent hasn't forgiven herself for that tragedy. As she floats in the water, her hair fills the frame, and in a way, it kind of forms its own red sewing. It seems like she might have drowned herself, kind of like Ophelia in Hamlet, but she sees this bird flying overhead, and it's much like the bird spotted by Adam of Hull in episode 6, and I'm just gonna assume that all these birds are how Alice Rivers gets all of her information. The Dragon Keepers resign in protest, saying that Rhaenyra sent an Andal before Sea Smoke. So Andals refers to one of the 3 major ethnic groups that formed modern-day Westeros people. The Andal invasion 6,000 years prior to all these events was really the first major group of outsiders to make it to Westeros, and it was they who really brought the faith of the Seven to the continent. The Andals had come from a settlement called Andalos and Essos before all this, and no one is quite sure where they came from before Andalos. But these Dragon Keepers, who descend from Valyria, would view the Andals as perhaps more primitive, or at least just culturally from a completely different world than they are. The Elder Dragon Keeper says, "The dragons are sacred. They are the last magic of old Valyria in the sad world. They are not playthings for the games of men." Playthings for the games of men evokes the title A Game of Thrones, and the recurring motif of these characters just being pieces on a chessboard. My theory is that it's still a game board, but that the dragons are the ones moving the pieces. As the last Dragon Keeper walks out, listen to the background. I'm trying to get perfect at recognizing dragons by their roars, but I'm pretty sure this was the she-dragon Silverwing down below. Rhaenyra tells the recruits that she thought she knew what it was to claim a dragon.
I understand now that what I thought I knew is ash in the wind.
In the final scene of episode 6, Rhaenyra walked down the launch pad, brushing the ash of Sir Steffan to the wind. And that's how most of these recruits will end up after they're cooked well done. According to Ryan Condal, he and Emma Darcy wanted to play this scene kind of like a cult leader trying to reassure followers before a mass death.
If you survive, you will be transformed.
Yes, cult leaders like Jim Jones claimed upon all of their deaths they would be transformed. Rhaenyra leads them to meet Vermithor, the Bronze Fury, and already we feel very nervous because no Dragon Keepers are
I got a clip of Vermithor, man.
Sang to this dragon at the end of season 1, and way too many of them are crowding the walkway. And
Daemon tried to claim Vermithor, right?
Because no Dragon Keepers are there singing the lullaby that Daemon sang to this dragon at the end of season 1, and way too many of them are crowding the walkway, and none of them can speak High Valyrian. There's no way this can go well, but Rhaenyra is aware of that. She faces them to pronounce "Come forward, Vermithor" in High Valyrian slowly, so hopefully some of them can start to pick up the High Valyrian. But from the complete darkness, the beast lumbers forth, and Rhaenyra's eyes angle higher and higher, as if she might have even forgotten how big he is. Before we even see Vermithor's head, we see his wings eclipsing the sunlight. So imagine that. Their first understanding of what they're even looking at is the cave itself just becoming weirdly darker all of a sudden. And the first person we cut to after Vermithor growls is Hugh Hammer. And he sensed just a bit of positive adrenaline pumping through his veins. Rhaenyra says, "Likiri and Doheras!" And Vermithor allows Rhaenyra to pet his nose. The sound design is Likiri and Doheras! And Vermithor allows Rhaenyra to pet his...
This shot, beautiful right here. This shot was beautiful. And guess what? The next shot that was beautiful than this is about to come up.
Nose. The sound design of this moment is just so effective because we're able to hear every little vibration in Vermithor's gullet as he purrs. Like even his calm purring is something that's really loud and scary. And the dragon's eyes close, relaxed. So Rhaenyra turns back to face the crowd, perfectly framed with a
fire ass shot. This shot fire as hell.
Vermithor's head behind her body, and you can see his gray horns around his chin, which have the effect of looking like the whiskers of an old man, similar to the gray whiskers of Hugh Hammer. Ryan Condal said that with this particular shot, they wanted to recreate the season 1 poster to deliver on that visual promise. Rhaenyra leaves them alone with Vermithor, and the dragon stretches his head over the crowd and pauses for a moment to clock Hugh, whereas Seasmoke gave a bit of warning as we saw the fire starting to glow up through his throat. Vermithor does not have that warning sign.
Shit, right on bat.
The initial burst lights up 5 people, and shortly after, Vermithor fires warning shots above the heads of the crowd, like he's just trying to terrorize them. Rhaenyra refuses to leave. She intentionally brought all of them out at once to see if any one of them could connect to Vermithor through the massacre, and she even had her soldiers there to stop them from leaving, but even those soldiers die in the fire too. This is despicable. I think perhaps the most despicable thing Rhaenyra has done on the show. Now, according to the behind the scenes feature, the production burned 45 people in different ways. They used, of course, flame retardant masks that were already made to look half burned. And in the shot of the guards getting swept up in fire, that shot alone had 16 people burning in it. And that leads us to the floor of this room with a 3-minute long take following Hugh Hammer.
Hold on, gang. We got a clip. DZ got a clip. Hold on. This shit was hard. This shit was hard. This shit was hard. Low key, the best scene in season 2. Look at you. Vermithor cacho his head. You see how this time this nigga give warning? Like he hesitating a little bit. Come on! Heard the way that shit echo, boy. Look at my boy Hugh. Small folk. Nigga Vermithor said, hold on, Hugh, you not that bad. You got some fierce to you, boy. Because you know how people were saying, Vermithor was like the fearsome of the dragons. The most fierce. He's like, you got some spunk to you, little nigga. Yeah, I like you, Hugh. He said, I like you, Hugh. You ain't bad. Bro, and look at Rhaenyra top right just watching. Or top left. Nigga, Hugh done claimed the dragon. Hugh done claimed the dragon. Rhaenyra made an army of bastards. Or at least, well, I guess dragon riders. Got 2 of them. Nah, she was hard. She was hard.
3 minutes, folks. That's a long time to stay on one shot. Though, these were actually separate shots stitched together in which they hid the edits. So really, every time there's like a quick pan or a big visual effect that fills the frame, like Vermithor blowing a plume of fire, there was definitely an edit there that they used VFX to remove. And when Hugh looks up over the rock and Vermithor now fills the frame, and then when we come back down to Hugh, that was a separate take. So throughout this, we're staying in the moment with Hugh as he goes from a panicked run as flaming bodies rain past him, and then he finds purpose in this chaos with the washerwoman, telling her to just stay put for a second, and then together they face Vermithor, and he saves this woman's life by pushing her out of the way, and then saves her again by shouting at Vermithor to distract him, kind of like Alan Grant in Jurassic Park trying to get the T-Rex away from the kid's car, and Hugh just faces this thing down. Come on! It kind of reminds me of like Ripley when she's in the loader, and at one point she just screams at the alien queen, come on! And I think it's that show of force, plus the virtue of saving a woman twice, and yeah, maybe even old man Jaehaerys' dragon seeing the son of that long-lost daughter that he probably wanted this dragon to bond to. These things together could bring Vermithor to heel. And now at this point, you can see Rhaenyra having walked back out on the edge to see this moment. They kind of did a little VFX thing to just have Rhaenyra appear at the very end of the long take. Meanwhile, Ulf stumbles away with that torch that initially frightened him when he picked it up. And now he stomps into, a clutch of dragon eggs. And I like how if you listen closely to those dragon eggs, you can hear some like stirring inside of them. Like it's so steamy that any one of them could hatch at any moment. Yes, it also kind of feels like Jurassic Park in a way. And Silverwing is actually so huge, we don't even notice that it is a dragon in the background initially. So
nah, bro, you can see the big ass dragon wing. She's like black.
I just don't think it's practical.
Ulf is like, I done up, and he accepts his fate, too tired to run, and he just drops his torch, but he drops it right by the eggs. And that might be a good thing in Silverwing's eyes, because these eggs need to be kept near heat. Ulf falls into a puddle of some kind of fluid. It's either mud or like a mixture of dragon urine or some of that oily bile, whatever it is. Ulf, by just demonstrating submission, or maybe bringing fiery warmth to those eggs, or yeah, maybe being the grandson to her most recent rider, Alysanne, Silverwing decides to accept him. So why do these dragons bond with the bastard sons of Adam and Hugh?
We don't know, man.
Is it what this show is hinting about their lineages? Could Hugh and Ulf have been anointed with some puddles of oily bile in the dragon mont and coated them in the dragon's scent? Or do Vermithor and Silverwing, at least, remember what scared them about the wall, and they no longer trust the highborn Targaryens to do the job and fulfill Aegon's Song of Ice and Fire? Does Seasmoke know about this song after consulting with Cyrax in the true opening exchange of this episode? So back in King's Landing, Ironrod reports that Ormond Hightower's forces have been stopped by the forces aligned with House Beesbury, and he's referring to Alan Beesbury and Alan Tarley. Yes, the Alan Alliance. Ironrod also reports that Tessarion has finally taken to wing, meaning we might actually see Alicent's fourth kid, Darren, and his dragon Tessarion.
Okay, okay, yeah, who was this nigga? Diaron. So, I did not know this. So, apparently she has a fourth kid that was living in Old Town. Okay, so I guess, her and, Viserys had 3 kids, which was Aemon, Aegon, and this nigga, which I didn't know. Okay, cool. And I did see sneak peeks of his dragon with like all the cool scales and stuff.
In the final episode of the season, oh please, oh please. Meanwhile, outside they hear the screams of dragon, and Ironrod looks at Larys like, uh-oh, we should have told Aemond about Seasmoke, but it's not Seasmoke, it is Silverwing, which is gonna be pretty scary to them, because they're like, wait, there's like another one beyond Seasmoke? Flying above King's Landing, seeing the city from an angle he never would have seen it before, Ulf is just delighting in this ride. And he's got one arm up like a bucking bronco, swaddling this weapon of mass destruction. Yeah, he kind of looks like Major Kong at the end of Doctor Strangelove. And then Ewan Mitchell does an impressive running leap onto his horse, Legolas style, and rides out to Vhagar, who is too big to fit in the dragon pit, so she has to sleep outside of the city. Aemond and Vhagar chase Silverwing back to Dragonstone, but they turn around when they see both Cyrax and Vermithor the Bronze Fury waiting for them. I love this final shot. All season long, Rhaenyra has been pouring through history texts about Aegon and his 2 sisters, making the 3-headed dragon of the Targaryen sigil. The lullaby the Dragon Keeper sang was Haros Batosi, meaning with 3 heads. And if you look closely at her necklace, 3 points are hanging from the ruby. So Rhaenyra has more dragons than these 3. She also has Vermax written by Jace and Moondancer written by Baela. And they're all at Dragonstone in this moment, but she only chooses to have 3 of them visible. Partly because those other 2 would be too small to see from a distance, but also because it's a symbolic show of force. To tell Aemond that not only are these 3 big dogs out here ready to fight, I got 2 more and maybe even more that you can't even see and don't even know where they are. And ultimately, to prove to her half-brother that Westeros can and will be invaded again. Okay, we're gonna end this penultimate episode in the spoiler dungeon, talking about some stuff from Fire and Blood that might get revealed in the finale episode or beyond, and I'm gonna look at some interesting details from the next episode trailer that came out. Okay, spoiler 1, let's revisit this line from Jace.
What if one of your base-born silverhead
dragon
riders decides he wants to rule the 7
Spoils, get out.
Yes, Jace is not wrong, because later on, Hugh and Ulf will defy Rhaenyra and want more from their respective stations until ultimately they flip and join the Greens. Ugh,
what?
Those guys. Spoiler 2, the final episode trailer includes a shot of Rhaenyra.
Damn, that sucks. So Elf and Hugh gonna flip and join the Greens? What? Okay, I want to hear this no more. Bro, if them niggas flip in the final battle, I'm finna be livid. Bro, they better... Yeah, I don't want to hear no more, but that just ruined me. I don't want to hear no more. I don't want to hear no more. I don't want to hear no more. Bro, I'm interested to see Prince Darren. Bro, I pray, bro, that has to be something in the books, right? No way Hugh and Oath, cause like, bro, Oath literally did not like Damon. Neither did Hugh. They literally caused, bro. No way. But nah, bro, I can't wait till episode 8. Hopefully, what they said about Hugh, bro, when Hugh, all right, cool, you got some crazy and you vibe check fast, bro. Yeah, bro. I can't wait, bro. I can't wait. It's gonna be lit.